All right, it is November 5th, 2020. Today we discuss vulnerability assessments, IoT in your data center, PCs in the cloud. I am Michael Haskins, architect, TASE Labs, and this is the Technology Architecture Solution Engineering Show. Today in the virtual studio with me is Dev. Again, how you doing?
Not too bad, we're it's a beautiful Thursday afternoon. We're a day late, but this week. But I'm ready to get started. Have some fun topics to talk about. So yeah.
Yeah, so we're a day late because I needed a recovery time we're 2 days after the election right now, and I needed some recovery time from that yesterday. So that coupled with some personal things I had to do and a gobs of day job stuff, we just couldn't fit it in yesterday. So, but yet here we are today. We did the bonus drop early. I don't know if you noticed, we put one out there a little bit earlier than we wanted to, just to try to keep people's minds off of the elections and all the goings on there. So there's that, and we're looking to have this one dropped out tomorrow. So let's see what happens. So, I told you we discussed a couple things, PCs in the cloud being one of them. Did you know you can run PCs in the cloud?
What a novel concept.
So when I first saw this article, it was in multiple places I saw this, but mostly it came from one of the Microsoft sites. They did a promotion of sorts of an article, and it said Microsoft Cloud PC, which let's go on the record, it's definitely different than what a VDI solution is, a full-blown VDI solution. So you will be able to stand up like a standalone machine in the cloud as a service. So I think I put the link in. I'm not sure if I put the link in. So Cloud PC is what it's called. So you'll be able to go to like cloudpc.microsoft.com. If you go there, it says setting up your workspace. Check back later to see if one's assigned to you, which is interesting. But they're supposed to lead with 3 types of machines: a light version, a standard version, and an advanced version. And looking at that, it seems doable. All the specs, like a light's a 2 vCPU, 4 gig, 96 gig SSD. Standard's a 2 vCPU, 8 gig RAM, 96 again SSD. So it's a little bit more optimized for some like hardcore crushing of probably number crunching, Excel-y type things. Then there's an advanced 8 gig 3 CPU, 40 gig SSD. Has accelerated graphics. It's optimized for scalability and data processing. So I don't know if you can do TensorFlows on there or not, but you can. It seems to be a beefy box, but in the cloud. So you scratch your head and you say Microsoft's pushing out Microsoft Windows Virtual Desktops, a VDI solution. This is a little bit different than that. So this to me goes back to when Amazon first started putting out desktops. You can get a Windows 7 desktop back in the day. I'm sure you can get a 10 now, or you can get a 10 now. But it's a standalone box, right? It's not controlled by your IT group. This is not something you're going to want to do for, having group policy go to it and having that full experience controlled. At least my opinion of it yet. I don't know if you checked into this at all. Have you checked into it?
I was checking into it as you were talking about it, because I saw it in passing this morning and I kind of just dismissed it because I didn't know what it was and I was busy doing other things for the day job. But it's very curious to me because, like you said, they have Windows Virtual Desktop, and I was looking at some articles about this right now while we were talking, and is it going to be like a service on Azure? Is that the prevailing theory, or is it going to be more consumer based?
So I think it's pushed more for consumers. Or for that business that just doesn't want to have to understand Windows Virtual Desktop infrastructure and creating gold images and things of that nature. Yeah. So it is. It's for all intents and purposes, it's a machine that is persistent to you user with your account, your Microsoft account. Yeah. So very interesting. opportunity, and I know this was a bit of a leak from Microsoft, if you will, because they've been working on this for quite a while. And if I'm not mistaken, the machines do obviously run in Azure. I wouldn't think they would put it anywhere else. Yeah. And the other thing too is that if you look at what it's marketing towards is, I mean, it's not a controllable unified experience where you're going to be able to mass roll out software and updates and control those, because it's linked to a user's cloud account. So
yeah, and it looks like, and I answered my own question, that some of the domains, it's not tied to like Azure. It's it's its own domain. I think it says cloudpc.microsoft.com, or at least that's what's in the report. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's definitely interesting. I think it kind of falls in line with their general model of how they operate things. You have consumer Office and you have enterprise Office stuff and Office 365. It makes sense that they would roll that out to consumers to a certain extent, especially if they see a market for it. To roll that out to users. So I think it's definitely interesting. I'm interested to learn more about it as it becomes actually official, once they start rolling stuff out. And so it's expected to launch around spring of next year. So yeah, I think it's gonna be really cool. It's really interesting.
Yeah, so there's beta-y things and release kind of now-ish, and here's the language behind it, right? So the language from Cloud PC is Microsoft's Cloud PC is a strategic new offering that's built on top of virtual desktop to deliver desktop as a service. At its core, Cloud PC provides business customers a modern, elastic cloud-based Windows user experience that will allow organizations to stay current in a more simplistic and scalable manner. So I guess we'll see all the good stuff that comes out of this then. The day job and all the various gyrations and gymnastics we're doing with Windows virtual desktops for customers could be all just get desktop as a service and call it a day in a couple of months. Yeah. So I think they're like you said, they're marketing they're planning to sell it as a managed M365 experience. Yep. Which is, this might be good for your everyday knowledge worker who's working in the Office suite and things of that nature. So it may have its niche for that particular use case and at a low cost per user. Because I think it's like they're charging a flat per user price according to the report. So yeah, I think it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting to see how the service is used and what people use it, how many questions we're gonna get about it, what it is, and things like that. So I think. I wanted to get ahead of it. That's why I brought it up. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see how people use it, how we look at it, and what's available to us to customize it and all that good stuff. So excited to see how it turns out and how it plays out. Yep, for sure. So one of the other things I didn't bring up in the today we discussed, though it's in the show notes, is Microsoft Teams. And I'm not sure if you saw the release on this. Microsoft Teams will be enabling adding additional accounts to Teams, keeping all accounts logged in. That's huge for us. Oh, yeah. We have Teams. We're joined to client Teams. We're joined to external partner vendor Teams. We're like every time we need to flop over there, if you're on a call or if you're doing something and you're logged into it, it logs you out and logs you into their Teams, and you get that whole thing going on, and you're external to them. It's to you. You're just a guest. So I thought that was awesome that that's going to enable people to be able to do that, especially when the messaging around was like, yes, you can create, provided you have all the security bits in place, you can create externally shared teams and create that environment that is super great, super fun, super useful, and collaborative. But you're missing everything on your own organization when you're logged into ours. So yeah. I'm really looking forward to that being released out here. That might be my new barker. I might be barking about that. So that's in our tenant here, because that will be super useful. I'm sure you agree.
I agree, but I don't know if that's actually what it is. From what I read, it's okay. So right now, obviously, if you're a guest, if your Office 365 account for your organization is a guest and other tenants, you get the little drop down in the right hand corner, and you can drop in, click your list of organizations, and switch to whatever. But the way I read this and the way I looked at it is that you're still just signed into your home environment in Azure. The way I read this is that you're going to be able to sign it. Let's say if you have like if you have another Office 365 account for another organization that you're working with that's native to their environment, you'll be able to log into that as well at the same time. But I still don't. What I fear is that, and this wasn't extremely clear, is that we're still going to have the same experience that you were talking about, where you're going to have to switch, and it's going to be a full switch. You're not going to be able to bounce easily back and forth between the two environments. It's going to be like the guest experience that we have now, except you'll just be switching to a whole nother native account into another environment instead of a guest account based off of your home directory.
If that's the case, then this roadmap feature is useless, because if you're not going to get your notifications and be able to interact with your I'll call it your home Teams account, there's no point in it, because hitting that drop down arrow and flopping over, works fine now. So,
the only thing is that you can't sign in natively to another account. So like, sometimes in our day job, people don't want to add us a guest. They want to create us a whole separate account and their tenant. Yeah. So, I mean, that definitely has its place and use case for it, where it's all in one place. But I think for people like us, where we like to have that pretty seamless switch, and obviously the guest switching sometimes takes a couple seconds to do it, and it's gonna be interesting to see how they build it in, and maybe it is like you could have, because obviously like you said, the be all end all with me for is that we can have two Teams windows open native to the desktop, one for one environment, one for the other, and interact seamlessly like that. But I don't think that's what the case is, unless it's
so the language that got me, pardon the interruption.
Yeah.
The language is allow you to switch between accounts, which is what you're talking about, and organizations is what I'm talking about. So the accounts and organizations is the one that, to me, encapsulates that everything should still work in your home Teams when you flop over to something else. That's the approach I took. Because when you look on top, the little upside down chevron, when you click on it in Teams next to your head, shows you all the organizations that you have access to.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the accounts. So.
Well, and right now, all that's in that drop down is tenants that you're a guest in. It isn't. Obviously, it doesn't show
the organizations you are guests in,
or the organizations you're a guest in. Sure,
yeah.
But it doesn't show, like, if you right now, if you want to sign into a separate account, you have to sign out of Teams and sign into the other one, and then whatever your guest is right there. So I mean, I think that's the functionality they're bringing. You won't have to sign out of your original account; just be able to add it like you can do in the Teams mobile app right now.
And organizations. That's what I'm hanging my hat on.
I really hope. I hope that's the case, because I mean, right now what I do is I have my Teams desktop client open, then I have a Teams browser open in a different environment. And
a machine to the right of you into another one.
Exactly. So I mean, I really hope that if that's the case, that we can have multiple Teams windows open for different organizations at the same time, and not have them trip all over one another. That would be amazing. But I fear that isn't the case.
Yep, agreed. So let's pivot off of this one. We'll see what happens in a month in December, what that looks like. And I'm hoping it is truly and organizations, because that'll be great. Pivoting to something a little more connectivity related. So I don't know if you saw that Azure IoT Hub announcement. That Azure IoT Hub on Azure Stack Hub is now in public preview, which is huge, in my opinion, from an IoT perspective. So that'll allow you to deploy IoT Hub on Azure Stack Hub, giving your whole operations of your IoT solution, if you choose to have it sitting in your data center. So it'll allow, I'll pull the text to just make sure I'm clear. Data ingestion pipeline, analytics workflow to IoT device and sensor management, all from within your data center. That is huge, because there are organizations that want to wholly own and have their IoT solution in their data center, or their colo for that matter. So I think that is huge. Personally, I prefer it to be in the cloud for multiple reasons, but I understand that there are times and circumstances, especially in the gov space or in the protected industry space, that you need to have full control and have the ability to operate in full control within your data center. That whole nimbly bimbly stuff, it's really cool. So I don't know if you saw that announcement or what your thoughts are on it.
I did see it, and I'm not extremely familiar with the Azure Stack Hub architecture, so I have a question for you before I give any further comment. Is that if an organization has Azure Stack Hub and they have an online Azure environment as well, can the two talk to one another, and is it a unified interface where they see everything, or is it not as seamless as that?
Consulting answer, it depends. So it truly depends on the services that you're using and how you have things set up. Well, let's just talk real quick Azure Stack in general. So Azure Stack is a set of services that runs in your data center. It's still technically a subscription model with Azure, but that is for like OS and software and services, right? It's not for the spinning disk and the compute and the stuff you put on the ground in the rack, if you will. So a lot of people will think that, oh, I bought this Azure Stack and it was insert price here. I got Azure in my data center. Well, you still need to have like the OS licensed and all the different services that are available to Stack there. Now, you can't have those services being redundant or replicated to Azure easily. The interface is the management plane is the same. So I think, yes, to some degree, there is, that seamless hybrid between the two. Obviously, they want to have you be able to get at your data and your stuff and management from pretty much anywhere. But Stack itself does bring in that control into your data center, does bring that oversight of where the bits are sitting at, what they're sitting on, and how they're accessed. So yes and no, and it really depends on your configuration and how you set things up. So that doesn't really answer your question, but
no, it gave me some insight, and I think that with I agree with you that with a lot of organizations or like for the protected industries or gov, that if they don't want to have a footprint in the cloud, but they still want to leverage those cloud technologies in their own data center with Azure Stack, I think the more, just in general, the more services that we can bring to the Azure Stack architecture for people to leverage is always a good thing. Mm-hmm. And especially in the IoT space, that's obviously it's such a big space and it's growing rapidly all the time and over time here. So I think it's going to be interesting. Who knows? Maybe we'll I know we've had a run on IoT there a little while ago for the day job. So who knows? Maybe we'll start working in that and people we'll start asking about that from an Azure Stack standpoint. But yeah, I think it's huge.
Yeah, for sure. And you got to be like a specific partner to deploy Azure Stack with like certain types of, stamps on your head, as we call them, like creds and whatnot. And I've designed many Azure Stacks before in my previous day jobs before. And the one thing I will say is that, the expectations need to be set, right? So there are certain providers like HP that have the management skin that they're controlling what goes on that stack or not. So like even though you can go out and buy the hardware, say it's $500,000 worth of hardware, no, not a real price, listeners, but we're just using fake numbers. Say it's 500,000 ice cream cones, okay, and you put it in your data center, and you have that initial upfront expense, and you don't want to have that. So you can go to a company like HP and say, okay, HP, I want Azure Stack, but this is what my projection is of my usage. And here's how much I am going to use over 3-5 years. So they're gonna size it to meet that, but you can count if your purchase is big enough, you don't have to turn on all that CPU and have it just sitting there idle, because that defeats the purpose of having, cloudy type things, is you want to pay for what you're consuming. So the common grapple with Stack, and I think this might be the common grapple with Stack with IoT, because a lot of people don't have a grasp on how much data they're going to ingest and what they're going to do from an interfacing with their devices and sensors, and how they're going to handle archiving and things of that nature. So what size thing do you put where? Do you just offload it? Like Stack Hub, in my mind, is just going to offload a lot of that storage, that historical stuff, to somewhere else, hopefully Azure Blob, and then just call it a day. So rewinding, some of the traditional challenges of buying gear for a data center would be like, I don't want to have idle CPU and idle disk. I want to have just what I need, because I don't want to have an outlay of money that potentially I could never use. And then that hardware or technology is now obsolete because of a different technology comes along. So companies are kind of smart about it in handling I'll use a generic term, backplane of Stack, like HP. And what they decided was like, okay, well, you're gonna have to use an initial upfront bit, but here's what your projection usage is, and we'll put some of that stuff in already, so you can just keep scaling. And as you turn on those bits and turn on those CPUs, you'll get charged for them, which is super, super cool if you ask me, because now you have all this gear there. You're paying for what you're using, even on the hardware to some degree, and then you're good to go. So hopefully it's a similar model with IoT Hub.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just to piggyback off of one of your statements, organizations always have trouble unless you're super dialed into what your ingest is and what you're spitting out. As organizations are not that dialed into how much data that they're leveraging or what can be cleaned up, all that type of stuff. So, back in a previous lifetime, we were trying to figure out for an organization what they wanted to do. From that standpoint, we're trying to convince them to move to Azure, but they didn't want to justify the upfront cost of or the recurring expense, if you will, because they were just trying to save money or didn't want to spend the money to a certain extent. So it is what it is. But hopefully the Azure IoT Hub on Stack is a similar price model, and be interesting to see how it plays out.
As long as eBaying server parts to replace an outmoded server is not in your business continuity and disaster plan, you'll be all right.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
Oh boy, walked a fine line in that one, right? So, Azure Defender for servers. How familiar are with the new, how they realigned Azure Defender? Have you poked into that, especially since Ignite?
I haven't poked into it. I remember our conversations on the Ignite show, or our Ignite finale show, about how they rebranded everything to basically bringing under a Defender brand, and all the different types of avenues you could use it for, or different products they have. So I haven't, since then, I haven't really poked into it. But I am somewhat familiar with the model.
Okay. So there's a new, it's being released, the vulnerability assessment for on-premises and multi-cloud machines. When you have Azure Defender on there and you are managing it with Azure Arc, is now a thing. That is definitely cool, right? So it bakes in vulnerability assessment scanning and scans these Azure Arc enabled servers. And when you are doing it on your enabled Azure Arc servers or your non-Azure machines, Linuxy type things, the Security Center will offer to deploy the integrated vulnerability scanner on them. You can do it manually and at scale. So that's the actual text from what some of the releases and articles have been saying. And let's unpack what that means. So what that means is if you need to do vulnerability scanning, if you're in a protected industry or if your risk assessment has a requirement from a policy perspective that you make sure that holes are stopped and plugged, Defender, and if you're managing with Arc, and just to remind everyone, Azure Arc is a management plane that manages in any cloud and any colo or on-premises solution, the series of supported workloads. So let's just target servers right now because they're the ones that are most vulnerable at this point. Because if you haven't pivoted off to containers or microservices where you're shedding off open ports and you're shedding off, certain vulnerabilities and security holes, this applies to you in a grander way. So having worked in, we'll say, healthcare and being in charge of an infrastructure team and also being a security officer, there's a couple things that we used to have to do monthly and quarterly to certain servers, which was run vulnerability scans to find out if all the latest patches are on there and which ones are not. Run to see, which ports are open and which ones are not, and do they meet an exclusion if they're allowed to be there by policy or application or use case, and if they're not. So a lot of this can be now managed through Azure Defender for servers. It used to be, or I should say it's powered by Qualys. So that's a pretty known tool for doing these types of things. So the partnerships go strong with Microsoft and their partners, and this is now baked in for Azure Arc services. I think that's awesome. So anything else that I want to call out on that? Oh, let's just go through the list real quick. So monitoring the vulnerability assessment scanner provisioning state on Arc machines. Making sure the agent on unprotected Windows and Linux Arc machines, which we already talked. Receiving and analyzing detected vulnerabilities from deployed agents. Again, they keep saying manually and at scale. That's important to note. And unified experiences for VMs and Azure Arc machines. So when you have these machines that are managed in Azure, either in Azure or in your data center, you get that one look, that single pane of glass. I hate saying that, but we'll call that out again. But here's the other thing, manually and at scale. So a lot of the challenges in the past used to be like, here's a tool. Now we got to schedule time during a maintenance window to either write a deployment to get everything on there. And then we always know that doesn't always work all the time. So how do we get this out there? Well, you're able to manually drop it on a machine, or when you're provisioning the agents for Defender for servers, you can check that option and have that installed, and it's going to look back home for its configuration, which is super cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think that from in general with Azure Arc and as they continue to build with that interface and the unification of hybrid cloud, wherever you have your compute at or managed instances now, where you have that unified interface to manage it, this just continues to build on it. And we obviously are seeing a lot of it in the day job. And yeah, I mean, we always want to have security bits. If we can manage security in one place and see those reports of vulnerability scans and all that good stuff, I think that's always a win. So Microsoft's going to continue to build on it in every aspect possible. And yeah, it's another tick in the win column to get that going. Agreed.
And I can't, you hear us talking all the time about, Azure Arc. The investment a company, an organization makes in plugging someone in and helping them either deploy Arc or trying to figure it out on their, that investment pays off over time, like exponentially. Having everything under that one tier. I mean, that's why there was third-party server management tools since servers been networked together, because you don't want to miss something. You don't want to have to work off checklists and going in and you want to have things as streamlined and automated as possible. And folding this up underneath there definitely helps. All right, video of the week. Again, I'm not going to go too deep on what it is because we want you to watch. It's a quick watch. You want to go with video of the week? You want to announce it this week?
Sure. Yeah, I was actually taking a look at it in preparation to see what it was, because I hadn't had a chance to do it before. So the video of the week is not Channel 9 video of the week, by the way.
Sorry,
it's a special time when we don't have that. It is the Interactive Timeline in SharePoint by April Dunnam. It's on YouTube. Just taking a quick peek at it, it's definitely interesting. I would say it's definitely a quick watch. It's less than 5 minutes. It definitely provides it basically shows you how to build an interactive timeline with a list. in SharePoint, and kind of go through that process and how what that looks like. So it's definitely an interesting way to use SharePoint lists, I think, considering with the other different types of products that are out there that might do a little bit better natively, maybe. But also, people use SharePoint for all tons of different things. So, definitely an interesting watch, and we encourage you to check it out.
Yep, definitely check it out. Look in the below side, up, down, left, right, wherever your notes are on your app or player that you're listening to us on for sponsors, links to the video of the week. We'll put some links for the Azure IoT Hub announcement. And I think that's it for today. Anything else you want to add in for today?
No. I say, I think hopefully the election stuff will soon sort itself out, and we'll know what's going on. So
hopefully by the next time you hear us, we'll have an understanding what's happening in our country. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks again to our sponsors, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye. Today's show is produced and edited by TASE Media, written and directed by Michael Askins, graphics and artwork by Motion Array and ABS. All topics are for information and entertainment purposes only. Consult a professional before attempting anything discussed. Not all technologies and approaches are compatible with your environment. Your mileage may vary. Visit the show notes for terms and conditions.